Think the Vatican is all holy water and heavenly guidance. Think again. For over 1,000 years, the world's most powerful religious institution has been knee-deep in corruption, cruelty, and cover-ups that would make a medieval tyrant blush. Today, we're ripping away the sacred veil to expose the Vatican's darkest secrets, the ones they've spent centuries trying to bury. Let's be crystal clear. We're focusing on documented historical actions and verified contemporary scandals. This isn't about attacking faith or believers, but about holding one of the world's most powerful institutions accountable for its actions. Because when you claim moral authority over 1 billion people, your failures aren't just mistakes, they're betrayals of the highest order. We're going chronological here, starting with the medieval period and working our way to modern times. What you'll discover is that Vatican corruption isn't some recent development. It's baked into the institution's DNA. Every era brings new horrors, new betrayals, new evidence that absolute power corrupts absolutely. This journey through Vatican darkness is going to get ugly really fast. Our first stop, the Pornocracy Era, also known as the Rule of Harlots. From 904 to 964 CE, the papacy was literally controlled by prostitutes and their aristocratic clients. Pope John XII turned the Lateran Palace into a brothel, allegedly raping female pilgrims who came seeking spiritual guidance. He was so debauched that even medieval chroniclers, who weren't exactly prudes, were horrified by his behavior. John XII supposedly died during the act of adultery, either murdered by the husband of his lover or struck down by the devil himself, depending on which account you believe. But here's the kicker. The church knew about his behavior and did nothing. Cardinals, bishops, the entire Vatican hierarchy, they all enabled his reign of sexual terror because political power mattered more than moral leadership. Then came Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope, who turned corruption into an art form. This man openly acknowledged his illegitimate children, including the infamous Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia. He sold church offices to the highest bidder, literally auctioning off cardinal positions like livestock. Need a bishopric? That'll be 50,000 ducats. Want to be archbishop? Better bring 100,000. The church became a marketplace where salvation had a price tag. Alexander VI also hosted orgies in the Vatican itself. The infamous banquet of chestnuts featured naked courtesans crawling around picking up chestnuts while cardinals bet on which prostitute could satisfy the most men. Picture that scene. The supposed representatives of Christ on earth treating the Holy Palace like a Roman bathhouse. The moral authority of the church wasn't just compromised, it was completely obliterated. But sexual corruption was just the appetizer. Let's talk about systematic murder. The same Alexander VI poisoned his enemies with a special ring containing a secret compartment filled with deadly toxins. He'd shake hands with rivals, scratch them with the ring, and watch them die agonizing deaths days later. When you're literally poisoning people while claiming to represent divine love, you've lost any pretense of moral authority. Now let's jump to 1209, the massacre of the Cathars. Pope Innocent III launched what he called a crusade against fellow Christians in southern France. Their crime: the Cathars practiced a slightly different version of Christianity. The Pope's solution: total annihilation. When the papal army captured the city of Béziers, they slaughtered every man, woman, and child, an estimated 20,000 people in a single day. The papal legate famously declared, "Kill them all, God will recognize his own." Think about that for a moment. Representative of Christ ordering the elimination of entire cities because they interpreted the Bible differently. Children perished in churches where they sought sanctuary. Entire family lines ended. Expectant mothers targeted. All authorized by the man who claimed to speak for God on earth. The scale was so extreme it concerned even medieval observers. The Cathars who survived the initial massacres faced something even worse: the Roman Inquisition. The Vatican didn't just execute heretics. They perfected the art of extracting confessions through systematic torture. In the basement of the Holy Office, papal investigators used devices that would make modern war criminals sick. The strappado, where victims were hung by their wrists until their shoulders dislocated. The rack, slowly stretching bodies until joints separated. But here's the truly twisted part. They kept meticulous records, every scream documented, every broken bone cataloged. The Vatican's archives contain thousands of pages detailing exactly how to break a human being while keeping them alive for more questioning. They created instruction manuals for torture, complete with diagrams showing optimal pain infliction techniques. They turned human suffering into a science, all in the name of protecting Christian souls. The Inquisition's victims included Galileo Galilei, forced to recant his scientific discoveries under threat of torture and death. Think about that. The Church was so committed to its version of truth that it was willing to torture the greatest scientific mind of the age. They literally chose ignorance over knowledge because admitting they were wrong would threaten their authority. Fast forward to World War II. The Vatican's controversial response. While Jews were being systematically murdered across Europe, Pope Pius XII's public response remains one of history's most debated moral questions. Recently opened Vatican archives reveal he knew about Nazi persecution, but received advice from his own officials not to speak out, advice tinged with anti-Semitic reasoning that Jews hadn't protested Nazis killing Christians. But the real scandal came after the war. The Vatican actively participated in the ratlines. Mayans documented escape routes that helped Nazi war criminals flee Europe. This isn't speculation. It's historical fact confirmed by Vatican archives and multiple independent investigations. Catholic clergy provided false identities, safe houses, and travel documents to some of history's worst mass murderers. The same institution that preached Christian mercy was enabling genocide architects to escape justice. Among those the Vatican helped escape: Adolf Eichmann, architect of the Holocaust; Josef Mengele, the Angel of Death; Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Leon. These weren't random refugees. These were the masterminds of industrial murder. A 1947 U.S. Embassy memo noted that the Vatican is the largest single organization involved in the illegal movement of immigrants. Up to 9,000 Nazi war criminals and collaborators reportedly escaped to South America through these Vatican-assisted networks. Moving to the 1980s. The Vatican Bank scandal. The Vatican's own bank became the center of one of history's biggest financial frauds. We're talking about money laundering for the mafia, illegal arms dealing, and the mysterious death of God's banker, Roberto Calvi, found hanging under London's Blackfriars Bridge with bricks in his pockets and $1.3 billion missing from his accounts. The Vatican Bank was washing dirty money for everyone from Sicilian mobsters to South American drug cartels. Church officials knew exactly what was happening. They were getting their cut. Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, who ran the bank, was literally nicknamed God's banker because of his financial wheeling and dealing. When investigators got too close, witnesses started dying under suspicious circumstances. The Vatican's response: claimed diplomatic immunity and refused to cooperate with international law enforcement. But the most serious modern issue is the one still developing: the systematic mishandling of misconduct allegations. For decades, the Vatican knew clergy were harming children worldwide. Instead of protecting young people, they protected perpetrators. Cardinal Bernard Law relocated problematic priests from parish to parish like chess pieces. Cardinal George Pell controlled a $30 billion fund used partly to settle cases. This wasn't institutional failure, it was institutional policy. The Vatican's own internal documents released in 2019 revealed they had detailed files on thousands of problematic clergy dating back to the 1960s. They knew the scope of the problem and chose secrecy over transparency. Children's lives were damaged to protect the Church's reputation. Families were threatened with spiritual consequences. Victims were blamed for tempting adult priests. The institutional response was breathtaking in its calculated self-protection. When Boston Globe reporters investigated the misconduct in 2002, they found a pattern repeated in every diocese: identify problematic individuals, relocate them, compensate affected families, discourage anyone who might speak publicly. The Vatican had created a global system for protecting harmful clergy. Pope Benedict XVI, as Cardinal Ratzinger, personally signed letters ordering bishops to maintain confidentiality about misconduct cases. This goes straight to the top of the Vatican hierarchy. And the financial cost. The Catholic Church in the United States alone has paid out over $4 billion in settlements to affected families. That's billion with a B. Imagine if that money had gone to actual charitable work instead of managing legal consequences. But here's the concerning part. They're using money donated by faithful Catholics to pay settlements for their own clergy's misconduct. The faithful are literally funding the management of their own children's trauma. Even today, the Vatican continues to resist full transparency. They've created the appearance of reform while maintaining the same secretive structures. When Pennsylvania's grand jury report revealed 1,000 affected individuals and 300 problematic priests in a single state, the Vatican's response was to offer thoughts and prayers while continuing to oppose legal reforms that would hold them accountable. The pattern continues, only the public relations approach evolves. So what's the pattern here? For over a millennium, when faced with moral choices, the Vatican consistently prioritizes institutional preservation over human dignity. They demand moral authority while engaging in systematic corruption, brutal violence, and documented cover-ups. The gap between their stated values and actual actions isn't just hypocrisy, it's a betrayal of the trust placed in them by believers worldwide. The most concerning part. Most of these issues only came to light through the persistent efforts of journalists, affected families, whistleblowers, people the Vatican tried to discourage, discredit, or legally challenge. How many more secrets are secured in those Vatican archives? How many more affected individuals will never see accountability? The institution that claims to speak for God has spent centuries proving they serve a very different master themselves. What do you think about the Vatican's historical record? Can an institution with this complex history claim unquestioned moral authority? Should there be limits on religious immunity when crimes are involved? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more investigations into power, corruption, and the dark side of institutions we're supposed to trust.